Welcome to Wealth Explainers. Today, we're breaking down inflation, the silent thief, and what's really happening behind the scenes. In this episode, we're going to look at why your grocery bill suddenly feels so painful, why keeping your money too safe is actually incredibly risky, and how the entire financial system is deliberately designed to keep prices creeping up year after year. Imagine you take a crisp, brand new $100 bill. You fold it up, stick it inside a glass mason jar, screw the lid on tight, and bury it deep in your backyard. You do this because you want to keep that money perfectly safe. Nobody can steal it. The stock market can't crash and wipe it out. You lock it away. 10 years go by, and you finally dig up the jar. You open it up, and there it is. The bill looks exactly the same. It still says $100 right there in the corners. On the surface, you protected your money perfectly. But then you take that same exact bill to the grocery store. 10 years ago, that bill bought an entire cart full of food for the week. Today, the cashier rings you up, and that same $100 barely covers 2 bags of groceries. A silent worm chewed right through the value of that bill while it was sitting in the dirt. You didn't lose any physical dollars, but you lost half your purchasing power. That invisible rot is inflation. Here's the part most people miss. We usually talk about inflation simply as prices going up. You go to buy a coffee and suddenly it's $6 instead of $4. You immediately think the coffee company is just getting greedy and charging more. But it helps to look at it from the completely opposite side. Prices aren't necessarily going up. The value of your money is actually going down. It simply takes more of your dollars to buy the exact same amount of stuff. Think of it like a pizza. If you slice a pizza into 8 pieces, each piece is a decent size. But if you slice that exact same pizza into 16 pieces, you didn't magically create more food. You just made every individual slice smaller, thinner, and less filling. When the supply of money in the economy expands, when the government and central banks print or create more currency, every dollar already in your pocket and every dollar sitting in your bank account loses a little bit of its filling. Now, this is where it gets interesting. You might wonder why anyone would intentionally design a system that constantly eats away at the value of your hard-earned money. The truth is, a steady level of inflation is completely by design. If you look at reports from the Federal Reserve, they explicitly target an inflation rate of around 2% every single year. They actively want your money to lose 2% of its value annually. Why? Because it forces us to act. It forces us to spend. If you know your money will buy slightly less next year, you are heavily incentivized to buy that car, upgrade that appliance, or invest in a business today. If money gained value over time by just sitting there, a rare situation called deflation, everyone would just hoard their cash. They'd stop buying things, factories would stop producing, businesses would stop hiring, and the economy would grind to a halt. So the system bakes in a little bit of urgency, a little bit of decay, just to keep the economic gears turning. On the surface, it looks simple, but this creates a massive hidden problem for anyone relying entirely on a standard paycheck. This creates the classic, exhausting race between your wages and the cost of living. Let's say you get a standard 3% raise at work this year. You feel great about it. You're moving up in the world. But if inflation is running at 5% during that exact same year, you actually took a 2% pay cut in real life. Your paycheck got mathematically larger, but your actual ability to buy things got smaller. It is a financial treadmill where you have to run faster and faster just to stay in the exact same place. And this is exactly why keeping all your money in a traditional, low-yield savings account feels incredibly safe, but is actually a guaranteed mathematical loss of purchasing power over a long enough timeline. And this is the key. Once you fully understand that cash is basically an ice cube slowly melting in your hand, you completely change how you store your wealth. You stop burying it in jars. Instead, you convert your cash into hard assets. You look for things that actually rise in price as the dollar falls. This is exactly why wealthy people buy real estate, stocks, or businesses. When the money supply expands and everyday prices go up, the price of those assets tends to go up right along with it. You are stepping off the melting ice cube and getting into a boat that simply floats higher as the water level rises. You aren't just saving, you are protecting your time and your labor from evaporating. Let's zoom out for a second and look at the broader financial principle at play here. When you understand who truly benefits from inflation, the whole confusing system suddenly makes perfect sense. The absolute biggest winner in an inflationary environment is anyone holding a massive amount of fixed, long-term debt. And who holds the most debt in the world? Governments. If a government owes trillions of dollars, inflation is actually their best friend. As the currency becomes worth less and less over time, the real, suffocating weight of that old debt shrinks. They get to pay back money they borrowed years ago using cheaper, heavily watered-down dollars today. It is a quiet, continuous, invisible wealth transfer from everyday people holding cash to large entities holding debt and hard assets. So, let's bring it all together. Inflation isn't just a random act of nature that makes your rent go up. It is the baked-in reality of our modern money system. Your dollars are designed to lose a little bit of their punch every single year to keep the economy moving and to continually cheapen old debt. The practical takeaway here is straightforward. Cash is fantastic for paying next month's bills and having a solid emergency fund. But for the long haul, protecting your purchasing power means moving away from the cash buried in the jar and owning the assets that ride the wave instead of being drowned by it. If you found this breakdown helpful and want to continue learning how the financial system really works, please hit that subscribe button, give this video a like, and leave a comment below with a financial topic you want us to cover next. Thanks for listening to Wealth Explainers, and we'll see you in the next episode.